So you're driving along, you go through the intersection, you don't think about it, and then you see that wonderful flash because you're on candid camera. It's photo red light. Is it photo radar? Is that what they're calling it? Todd Shepherd from the Independence Institute and his incredible website, Complete Colorado, he took a closer look. First of all, photo radar has been growing in popularity. It started in a couple cities. I know Boulder was top on the scene, and then Aspen, and now the whole state, city after city, have these photo radar cameras. What's the purpose? What do they say?
First of all, let's make the distinction. There's photo radar, which is where, say, the city of Denver will set up a van on the side of the road, and they're actually measuring your speed. Then we have the red light cameras. I'm not aware, really, of too many municipalities in Colorado that do so much photo radar. But the red light cameras, excuse me, have become more popular in the last 3 or 4 years. But it almost seems as though they're peaking because while they've had a lot of success recently getting foothold in a lot of municipalities, it also seems that a lot of municipalities are now starting to reject them after having tried them for a little while.
They've been remarkably unpopular in that the legislature has done a few different laws to it. And first, they said that there can be no points assessed on your driving record. So you'll get fined, but it won't be a moving violation. The other thing they did is they said that you need to have a warning. So before every photo red light camera, there is a sign somewhere that says photo radar ahead or red light camera ahead. You don't always see them because they put them right behind a bush or something, but there's supposed to be a warning that watch out, there's a camera ahead. So if it doesn't cost you anything on your ticket, on your driver's license, and they warn you about it, what's the reason to have it?
Well, for the photo radar, I know, for example, in Denver, they like to set them up near school zones, and I think so. The reason there is
what, they want to take pictures of little kids,
right? So
sick.
And I got busted once in a school zone right off 13th and Calumet. I'll tell you, it was difficult for me to see the very warning you were talking about because I had just turned on, and it was different if I had been traveling just straight on Calumet the whole time. So I felt like I wasn't given a proper warning in that case. But in the case of red light cameras, the theory there is there are these certain intersections that sort of tempt drivers to go ahead and run that yellow light and maybe catch the tail or the tail end of the yellow and the beginning of the red light, and by doing so they put everyone at risk of a T-bone kind of crash in the middle of the intersection, which, as you can imagine, if you think of a T-bone crash, that's very dangerous in terms of the physical danger you put to yourself and to anyone else in that intersection. But what we're starting to find out is the red light cameras just aren't so much about perpendicular running through that intersection.
Let's see if we can put out the theory that many of us who have received these tickets get one and go, this is not about safety. This is about raising revenue. Think of it. You don't even have to hire a cop to sit out there and write a ticket, run your license plate. You put a machine there, and all it does is bring in revenue into the city. And I don't think my sense of this is too different from other people, although they'll say, hey, we have these laws. These laws are made to have safe roads. If we had these everywhere, we'd have much safer intersections.
Right. Now, in terms of no police, I understand what you're saying in terms of the cameras can be automated. However, both Denver and Aurora, which Aurora has red light cameras as well, they both tell me that each ticket goes through a 2-officer vetting process before it gets the stamp of approval to be sent to your mailbox. So there is some officer labor involved.
All right, but
whether it's for revenue or not, I agree that that's debatable.
It's not the same if a guy's sitting in his car waiting to nail somebody, and then he has to drive, pull him over, get the ticket, do this. If you have a couple cops just going through photographs that are coming through the computers, that's pretty efficient.
You make an excellent point because, for example, the recent investigation I did with red light cameras, when I showed my results to Councilwoman Jeannie Fotz, one of the things she mentioned was if we put an officer in that situation, would that officer, using his or her own discretion, would they pull that individual over and write a ticket? And she was of the opinion that in most of the cases that I presented to her, they wouldn't. And so that's where people start to feel stung, because it's more like they're getting ticketed for a technicality, for not dotting an I or for not crossing a T.
Is there an argument to be made, though, that by having the cops out working more important cases, this is a way to automatically do their job for these functionary things, so they can be out there catching bad guys and real criminals?
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, you can make that argument. But again, the question is still, are the red light cameras, are they ticketing what they're intended to ticket, namely perpendicular running through the intersections, or are they just pulling out technicalities for the sake of, as you hypothesized earlier, raising revenue?
All right, so I went to you and I said, I'm hypothesizing. This is about raising revenue.
Right.
And you looked back at me and said, I'm hypothesizing it's about raising revenue as well. And I asked, well, how do you take a look at that? And you did some investigations. Lay out what you looked at and what you found, because I was stunned by this.
Well, if I can back up a couple of steps first, Heidi Hemmett at Fox 31 took a look at, she got some tips on the red light cam at 36th and Quebec, where people said they felt like they were being ticketed for just turning right on red. And then they put their camera and observed the intersection for a little while. And it's hard to tell, because the camera always flashes. Just because it flashes doesn't mean a ticket's going to be generated. But the conclusion of her report was it did look like some people turning right on red were being targeted.
Stop there, just so I'm imagining this. I pull up to, I'm on the right lane of perhaps a 2-lane on each side, 4-lane road, and I'm deciding to make a right on red. Well, the photo radar camera looks at it, and the photo red light camera says, wait, there's a guy in the intersection, and it's red, therefore we're going to get him, even though what I'm doing is perfectly fine and legal.
And technically what the citation is, if you get one of these citations, is there's the white line painted on the street. You must stop before it. So when you're turning right on red, especially if you, maybe let's say you roll very slowly through it.
The old California roll, which is you're doing 2 miles an hour, you haven't come to a complete and full stop.
Exactly. So then you did not stop in front of the white painted line, therefore you violated whatever section of law, and they have the right to send you the ticket. Now that was Heidi Hammett's report. Not long after that, Rick Salinger, Channel 4, came out with a report where he showed people in the center lane that were edging up to the white line just by a few inches. And if they crossed over that white line, even by just a foot or so, they would get a ticket. So in other words, they are stopping at the intersection. They are not running a yellow or red light, but they're still getting a ticket.
Well, are they breaking the law?
Technically, yes, but again, let's go back to what Councilwoman Jeannie Fotz told me is, if you put an officer right behind that individual, would him or her, would they, using their own discretion, pull that individual over? And I think probably all of us can guess they would not.
No,
exactly.
if you're a few inches over the line when you pull up to a red light, nobody's going to care.
Right.
And also, let me say, if this is about safety, that the idea is to make these intersections safe. The guy who does the nice California rolling stop and makes a right turn is not endangering anyone. He just didn't come to a full stop. It's not like he's plowing through, going directly through the intersection.
Exactly, and so that's what my investigation focused on. I went back to the same intersection that Emmett used in her report, 36th and Quebec, and I made a records request for all of the citations made in one day. There were 51 of them.
Now, you went to one intersection.
One intersection, 36th and Quebec, and I said from midnight to midnight, I want every ticket written at that intersection. 51 were written. Out of those 51, 48 were for cars in the right lane. So if you ask me, that looks very much like they are singling out people.
Let me do the quick arithmetic. So roughly 98%, 94% of the tickets being issued were for people in the right lane, not in the center lane, not in the left lane, but in the right lane. And I think we can say these people were probably just edging out to make a right-hand turn.
Well, especially if you look at that intersection, if you're in the right lane, there are 3 other lanes of traffic immediately to your left. So it's natural that you might want to edge up to be able to get a line of sight beyond those cars that are immediately to your left.
If you're going to make a right on red.
exactly. You want to look that left direction before you turn right. Now, I can show you some of the pictures, John, of those tickets where by the time the camera flashed, the person that had turned right on red was very nearly out of the picture on the next street. I can show you examples of where the person was ticketed in the right lane, and there's no other traffic, no pedestrians, no bicycles anywhere near that individual in the right lane, and yet the ticket was issued.
So this is not about safety. 94% of all the tickets, at least in this one intersection, are people in the right-hand lane making a safe right turn.
Well, and what's interesting is Los Angeles is one of those cities that has, within just the last few months, they've decided to take down their red light cameras. And the reason they did was because, first of all, it was proven that 75% of their tickets were right on reds. And then a guy was able to use a database from the California Highway Patrol to prove conclusively that right on reds, and that includes rolling right on reds, so even if you don't come to a full stop, that those do not present an imminent safety danger to that intersection.
How did he prove that? I'm curious.
Again, it's just the way the California Highway Patrol, or the California Highway Department of Safety, whatever it's called, the way they keep statistics on every accident that happens, so you can tell what exactly those vehicles were doing when the accident happened.
So these guys aren't causing the accident. In many cases, there's nobody else around. All they're doing is something that seems legal, making a right-hand turn on a red light, and they're getting ticketed for it, which brings in how much to the city?
Well, it's a $75 ticket per instance. So if you look at this one day that I examined at 36th and Quebec, that's about $3,200. Now, a portion of that goes back to the vendor because the city doesn't, I'm not sure if they lease the cameras, but there's a portion of red light cameras where the city pays some sort of monthly tribute to the company that actually runs the cameras. But I'll tell you really quickly, when I went to the Denver Department of Safety about this, I asked them, are right on red turns problem? And they said, well, 60% of all right on red accidents involve a pedestrian or bicycle. And they didn't tell me how many right on red accidents there were. So I went to the very same study that they cited, and that study said right on red accidents comprise less than 1% of all signalized intersection accidents. So we're talking about a subset of a bigger universe.
Right, this seems like a money-raising scam to me. What if the people don't like this? I mean, Denver's got some opportunities. It's no longer done in LA. We've got less than half a minute. What do you think is going to happen?
Colorado Springs, with the new administration there, they've decided to remove their red light cameras. In Denver, it's very easy to get a question on the ballot for the citizens to get a petition, get the signatures, and get it on the ballot. So if the people of Denver don't like it, the ballot process is right there for them.
No, I mean, that's safe for important things like putting together a UFO watch committee, not for stopping scams going to the Treasury. Thank you, Todd. Great report. Look for me late nights on 850 KOA. Check out Todd's work at independenceinstitute.org. We'll see you next week.